All right, guys, finally, we got it all together. We truly apologize for this disruption, okay, for not having the technical side sorted. But listen, we're going to have a great call no matter what, okay? Let's keep this totally positive. I've got Dr. Abraham all the way from Malaysia. Dr. Abraham's been with our company now just over 12 months with Zenzino, and he's part of the Scientific Advisory Board. And tonight, what we're going to do is get Dr. Abraham to talk about understanding premium macronutrients in the balanced oil. This is a key part to understand the power of the structure of the actual Zenzino products. Dr. Abraham, I'd like to hand it over to you to just kickstart, and I'd like to get you just to give the audience a quick 1-minute overview of your history and why Zenzino first.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Thank you so much, and sorry for the delay, guys. I'm based in Kuala Lumpur with Zenzino, Malaysia. I've been a general practitioner for the last 45 years, and I've been involved in the nutrition industry for more than 30 years now. I've been with Zenzino, as Robert mentioned, for just over a year, and we have some amazing products in this company. Probably the first company that I've come across that has products that can be tested to see whether it's working on you. Now, this evening, we are going to talk a little bit about the balanced oil as presented by Zenzino. And I want to share that this is part of a macronutrient. Now, normally when I start talking about a product, let me see, the slide is not moving now.
Just tap anywhere on the slide and it'll move for you.
Wow.
Try to use page up and down.
Page? Sorry? Oh, I see. Seem to be... Okay. That's right. I'd like to usually talk a little bit about the basics first so that we get the right perspective. Now, the basic health ingredients that apply to almost anybody would be air, water, food, and your lifestyle. Now, the first two are not talked about very much for a very good reason, because oxygen has the same formula in any part of the world. And if you, and Robert, you probably in West Australia have one of the best air condition. Now, west of Australia, the sea is so large that the next landmass is South America. So you get very good oxygen coming from there. It's very important. Less than 5 minutes without oxygen, we are gone. All products, whatever you do, whatever you eat, practice, you will get better results if you get more oxygen into your system. Now, water is very important because out of the 10 trillion cells in the body, and I'd like to quote the conservative number, some people quote 60 to 100 trillion. Every cell has more than 10,000 chemical reactions in a day. And all that needs water and a medium of good water to interact. And therefore, drinking clean water is very important. How much to drink? Many theories about it. All you need to do is look at your urine. If it is getting a little yellow, it's time to top up. Keep the urine clear. I'm not going to touch on lifestyle. It's a huge subject. When we talk about a diet, it gets a little bit more complicated because different parts of the world, people eat a little bit differently. And yet, I want to show a commonality between the different groups. And that would be basically everybody has some grains, rice, noodles, quinoa, whatever, any part of the world. You have some basic grains, and then we go on to have some vegetables, locally grown, animal produce, that might include dairy products, coastal areas like East Asia, more seafood, inland, maybe more homegrown animals. You go to mountainous areas, you get goats. And of course, if you go to Europe, you get beef. And if you come down to South Asia, due to religious reasons, many of them are vegetarians. In addition to that, everyone took a local seasonal preparation of some herbs in soup form, broth, and so on. While this picture looks complex, actually when we break it down to what we are taking, you can say that you can divide it into the large nutrients, the ones that we need to consume in large amounts to satisfy ourselves, and the small amounts that need to process the macronutrients in a more efficient way. So when you look at protein, I think in the developed world and the developing world, we have enough protein. The problem is our distribution is not good. We do not take it equally in during breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We have it mostly during dinner. Now, then I would like to look at the carbohydrates. In all our societies today, we are taking too much of that. Keep an eye on it. Some people require more, some less. Try and get your proportion right. Today, I want to focus more on fats. When we talk about fats, the first thing that comes to mind is how many types of fats. Now, this is where the biochemists step in and they make the picture a little bit more complex. They tell us that there are 3 types of fats: saturated, unsaturated, and trans fats. Now, if you look at, well, this goes into biochemistry. When we look at saturated fats, all the carbon atoms in the fat spine, when we look at the formula, are completely saturated with hydrogen, and therefore they are called saturated. Those who have less hydrogen attached to it and some of the bonds are double bond, then we say it is not full yet and therefore it is unsaturated. Some would like to even divide it further into mono unsaturated because there's one double bond, and more than one double bond is polyunsaturated. I've given the sources here, and of course the bad guy is the trans fats. I want to say something that you might not be familiar. Trans fats are good for you. Let me clarify that statement. There are 2 types. One is natural trans fat. The second one is artificial. It is the artificial that are bad. Trans fat that occur naturally occur in dairy products and in meat, and can occur anything between 3 to 6% in the food. These are good. In fact, some years ago, one type of trans fat, conjugated linolenic acid, or CLA, which has got a strong influence on the fat metabolism, was marketed as a weight loss product. It didn't work because in the body, no one thing works alone. It works in unity, and therefore it's important to get all right. By the way, let me recap. All these fats are necessary for the body for health. Saturated fats, minimal. Trans fats, minimal. Most of it should be unsaturated. Now, we eat all kinds of fats, whether it comes in vegetables, coconut oil, avocado, or any other animal product. Mostly it's animal product where we get our fats. They get broken down to its very basics. The same thing happens to carbohydrates and proteins. Carbohydrates get broken down to glucose before they are absorbed and reconstituted into other more complex forms. Same thing happens to the proteins, gets broken down to amino acids. Now the fats get broken down to fatty acids and glycerol. They get reconstituted in the body according to the fats that we need. And we require fat. If there is no fat in our diet, we will die. Every cell has a membrane which is made up of fats. And this membrane is 50% fat. It has got 50% protein, and the fat covers the outer surface and the inner surface. This is to regulate what comes into the cell, such as hormones, nutrition, oxygen, and so on. And what goes out needs to be regulated. so that only waste matter leaves the cell. So you can say that this cell membrane has a lot of functions. It has to be tough, it has to be selective, and this surrounds all cells. Mind you, the cells are three-dimensional. The diagrams that we normally see is two-dimensional. I'd like to picture the cell as a small balloon filled with water. Okay, it accommodates others, it's fluid in nature, at the same time very tough. Okay, let's back to the fats. Now, when we look at the fats, the body can synthesize almost all kinds of other fats, but there are two that we are not able to synthesize in the body, and therefore it must come in our diet. It is essential that we get it from the diet, and therefore they are called essential fatty acids. More of biochemistry again, these two are called omega-3, omega-6. Omega-3 is not always fish oil, and omega-6 is not always from evening primrose. Those are the major commercial sources of omega-3. Again, these two oils are a carbon chain, and they have a double bond at the third bond area. Okay, why omega? Somehow, for some reason, we'd like to count it from the end of the carbon chain. So it is not alpha, more omega. These two types of oils we must get in our diet, number one. Number two, it looks like we need it in a particular ratio, or otherwise we get into trouble. And the ratio seems to be anywhere between 1:1 to 1:5. By 1, I mean omega-3, and 1 to 6 or 5 is omega-6. Now, we take the middle path, okay? So we recommend a ratio of 1:3 of omega-3 and 6. If you get a better ratio, that's fine, but you begin to get the beneficial effects by 1:4. Now, the cell membrane is 50% fat, and the cell membrane doesn't stop there. It seems to extend into the cell to surround the different organs within the cell. That includes mitochondria, which is the energy factory, the nucleus, which is the command center, and many other, you can say, organelles, because these organs are within the cell and they are very small. Now, it helps to maintain the shape of the cell, integrity, fluidity, and all functions of the cell. The regulatory capacity of a cell membrane is amazing. That is why any rupture in the cell membrane quickly dies. Any breakdown within the cell, most of it can be repaired. But if the membrane is broken, then it's a problem. Now, if all cells have this property, then whatever benefit you get from taking the appropriate amounts of essential fatty acids will be passed on to tissues because they are collection of cells, and organs because they are collection of tissues, and systems because they are a group of organs for a particular function. Okay, I'm sorry. Now, why this excessive omega-6 intake has become a big issue? Because they find that omega-6 has a main function of causing inflammation to the body. Now, inflammation is a very good process. It is a damaging process in the short term, but it is oriented to healing any damage that has occurred. For example, if you get a blow on your forearm, you get a bit of swelling. In a day or two, it gets warm, it gets tender, and if it is big enough, the damage, the arm may not be usable for a couple of days. What is going on is these are symptoms of inflammation. And when that begins to repair, after a while, the inflammation settles down. Now, in modern times, we have a pandemic of inflammation which doesn't stop. it continues throughout the day, the days, months, weeks, and so on. What is the cause of inflammation? Inflammation has many causes. Number one is pollution from the environment, social problems like stress. This increases certain stress hormones, which causes inflammation, and quite a number of these are mediated by omega-6. Why did we have, or how come we have landed up taking too much of omega-6? The old-fashioned way of cooking was minimal oil and usually animal oil. Thanks to industrial revolution, we learned how to extract oil from seeds and vegetables. We were able to process it so that we can bottle it and it lasts much longer. When we used animal oils for cooking, we used very little. But when it comes to omega-6, it was initially promoted as unsaturated fatty acids, and therefore they are healthy. And so we became generous with this oil in our cooking. While at the same time, our food content of omega-3 was dropping. We didn't realize this. Omega-3 used to be found in beef and mutton because they were feeding on natural diet, grass-fed, as they say now. Okay, they had some amount of omega-3, which is now gone. Meat hardly has any of this. Now, when this kind of an inflammation sets in, we are told we set a baseline or a foundation for many of the degenerative diseases of mankind, such as diabetes, cholesterol elevation, blood pressure increase, cancer, uric acid and gout, stuff like that. Now, that is not the only cause, don't get me wrong. There are many other causes, but inflammation makes it much easier to get all the diseases that I mentioned. Now, how can we reverse the situation? The only way is 2 steps. One, we have to reduce the omega-6 consumption in our food. Cut down on the cooking oil, omega-6, and how do we increase omega-3 since our food intake has dropped in omega-3 to a very dangerous level? There is no choice but to take a supplement. Now, omega-3 preparations in the market are widespread. In fact, tens of such products are there. Which one to choose? Now, omega-3 was first introduced in the market about 40 years ago after they noticed that people who live in cold climate like Greenland, Scandinavian countries, where they eat a lot of fatty fish. In Greenland, they had to eat that because there was hardly any vegetable to get. Now, these people got an excess of omega-3. They had other problems because of a lack of vegetables and so on. But when it came to cardiovascular health, the incidence was pretty low compared to other parts of the world. And that's how omega-3 came to the forefront. Now, when it was promoted as a commercial product, it didn't achieve the target of reducing cardiovascular problems as much as expected. Okay, it was in the last 10 years that we noticed that there's something missing. Okay, I'll come to that in a short while. Meanwhile, how do we choose what criteria we can use? Now, sometimes we go for a cheaper price, but then when you check the actual amount of omega-3, when it comes in a soft gel, a general product is listed as 1,200 milligrams of omega-3. But when you check the ingredients, the ones that work, the EPA and the DHA content is very low. And that is why they are able to offer you a lower price. Effectiveness, so far, no other tests have been done other than what is available with Zinzino at the moment. Now, this test shows how much of the EPA, DHA, omega-6 content has actually gone into your cells and how much the body is using. The next session I have next month on the 15th, we'll be talking a lot about this because we will learn how to read the test report of the dry blood spot test offered by Zinzino and how to make judgments. So for the moment, we know that we are the only ones, at least in this part of the world, in Southeast Asia, that has this test. So it's better always to get a supplement that we know works. Now, balanced oil has adequate amounts of omega-3. Depending on your body weight, we recommend 2 servings, and that will include omega-3, that is DPA, EPA, DHA, which are the functioning ingredients. Now, can you get omega-3 from vegetarian sources? Yes, there is an omega-3 that is listed as ALA. Now, that ALA needs to be converted to EPA or DHA to be used by the body. Now, this conversion is not very efficient in most people. This takes place in the liver, and the percentage that gets converted is estimated anything to be from 3 to 30%. Surprisingly, vegetarians are able to convert much better than non-vegetarians. Okay. Now, we have also included omega-9, and this is because we have added something to the omega-3, which is called polyphenols. Let me, oops, here it is. Okay, balanced oil contain adequate amounts of omega-3. Why wasn't omega-3 that effective? It is only in the last 10 years we realized this. Now, there was a regulation, there is still that regulation that all oils extracted from fish in the sea must be purified because there are a lot of soluble pollutants and heavy toxic metals. So all companies, at least most of them, use a process called molecular distillation where they clean up these oils. Now, while it is being cleaned up, they noticed that we also lose a particular group of antioxidants called fluorotannins. Not many people realize that that goes very well with the omega-3 that you get from the sea. They occur together, they work together. Now, without that, the omega-3 has some benefit, but not its full potential. What Zinzino has done is added antioxidants that are closest to that group. This group of antioxidants are called polyphenol, and they are extracts of extra virgin olive oil. Zinzino has taken the trouble to make sure we get the best species of olive to get an extract of good amount of polyphenol. And it has also been found that if you harvest the olives 1 month before it is ripe, then you get even more polyphenols. And that is what has been added to the balanced oil. Since they come with a base of olive oil, omega-9, which is a monounsaturated fat, which is good for us, is also included. Situation, this has been highlighted quite a bit. And by the way, vitamin D3 is probably the most highly studied nutrient in the world of any nutrient. And omega-3 is the 3rd most studied fish oil, okay? So we have a combination which is well proven. Now the taste, natural taste of orange and mint has been added because there are still some people who do not tolerate oil to their taste that well. Let me tell you, even without that, the taste of the oil is quite okay. I'm not one who's particularly enamored by drinking oil, and I find it quite pleasant and light in the mouth. Now, the last part that I wanted to highlight was, is it working for us or the person who is taking? Now, tests were available since 100 years ago to see whether nutrient levels in the blood are there, and whether we can check on it. One of the earliest tests was vitamin C. Now, at that time, testing of the blood was from the liquid part of the blood. By the way, our blood is about 5 to 5.5 liters per person. It circulates throughout the body every minute. The liquid part is 55%. The solid part, red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, the solid part is about 45%. All this while, tests were done on the liquid part, which means it is not reliable. Take vitamin C, for example. You test the blood and shows a pretty high level. What happens to the vitamin C? Does it get picked up by the cell, or does it come out in the urine? Most vitamin C preparations come out in the urine in about 6 to 8 hours. So the best way to find out about a nutrient of how effective it is to check the cell itself. We can't do that because we can't be picking off cells from the body. Fortunately, a good representation is the red blood cell, which goes around the body and has a lifespan of 120 days. So within this turnover period, if we have techniques to check the cell membrane of the red blood cell, that is a fairly close representative of all the cell membranes in the body. Okay, that is what Zinzino has done, and it has got an independent laboratory, Vitas, in Norway to do this test for us. By the way, as of last week, Vitas has done in excess of 780,000 such tests, and is the only company in the world that has such a large database. They are located in a very scientific environment, science park, where there are research institutions, and they are working with them to provide us even more accurate details. Now, those tests show that Zinzino Balance Oil gives a success rate of 95% in improving the ratio. To reach your ideal ratio of 1:3 may take more than that in some people because of the deficit that they have. But when you do your second test, you can see a major noticeable improvement. Okay. Now, the next session is going to be on the 15th of March, where we'll be going into the results and the importance of the levels. By the way, these results are amazing because they give you values which are not available, at least in this part of the world. 11 different types of fatty acids in the cell membrane, and 4 different estimates of the cellular health. So we will go into much details in that. I want to thank Robert for organizing this session. I hope you have found the information useful. Is it okay if we take 1 or 2 questions?
What I'm going to do, Doc, is I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, okay? Just about, and I've got a number of questions here from the people that have sent me messages. The first thing, so we might just drop that share screen down. Okay, Doc, I'm just going to come up here and add. All right, Doc, so a couple of key things that people are asking, okay, is when we get to the balanced oil. The balanced oil, from your side, they should be taking about 15 mil a day for an average body weight. Is that the key belief? Would it be sensible to up the dosage, or what's your opinion about taking a little bit more if you want to get your immune system stronger?
Looking at the current situation, I would say if you have not been taking fish oil before, or if you've been taking some other brand, top it up with 15 ml so that you can fill up your deficit and come to a level. Get the test done 120 days later. If you find that it is more than 1:3, maybe you can titrate it down to the level that you feel is okay. A little bit of extra is okay, no problem.
Fantastic. And the other one is that we've got a lot of people saying they're making the switch to the premium balanced oil. Your opinion about the balanced oil, the basic one that we have versus the premium. Would you have any preference from your side as a reference or not?
We are very envious because this part of the world, we haven't got the premium yet. Now, what you get in the premium is an extra dose of polyphenols, which are not only helpful for absorption of the omega-3. That sort of polyphenol is going to affect the whole body. You're going to get antioxidants, which are very powerful. Yes, if you have access to that, why not? That would be even better.
Fantastic. And the other one that they say is for the countries that are available, the xenobiotic. Your opinion of the prebiotic, and I know you don't have this in Malaysia in your countries, but do you have much knowledge about this product?
Now, xenobiotic is a very strategic blend of 8 fibers. Now, most of us look at fibers to think that we just need to have a good bowel movement. No, it's much more than that. And the byproduct of the breakdown of these fibers puts out a number of chemicals which gives you a coating to the large intestine and make sure that you do not have any diseases like irritable bowel syndrome, or for that matter, long-term cancer of the colon, which is getting very common in modern societies. This may not be appropriate to say, but if you take xenobiotic regularly, your evacuation will be more complete, and it would be not surprising if you get your stools anything between 6 to 9 inches long.
Mm. I find that with a lot of people, they always call me and talk about their cleansing, okay? And they call it floaties, that they're finding that the fiber really gives them great, cleansing effect, and also they get the floaties in the toilet, obviously. So that's a really good sign of a healthy body when you've got, great digestive happening within your structure.
That's right.
Now, the final one I've got, and then I'm going to touch on Dr. Paul, the balance test. You've just gone through that and you've made it very, very clear. In your opinion, day 1 you should test, day 120. And do you then recommend once a year, or what is your recommendation for the balance test?
Okay, Robert, I think everybody should have an initial test before starting the product. Now, you may have been on another preparation of fish oil. You should check it out to see whether it's working. If it works for you, you are already in balance, that's great. Continue what you're doing. So you have a starting point. 120 days is because the turnover of all the red blood cells on an average is 4 months. So we get the second test, by which time there is a full turnover. Let's say you start off with 1:20, and the second test shows that you are 1:9, okay? Now, you confirm to yourself that you are progressing. This product is working for you. You haven't reached your target yet, okay? The next round of testing would be another 120 days, okay? Let's say you have already hit 1:3 on your second test. Please go on to do one more 4 months later. Let us say that you hit 1:2. So the servings that you are taking is more than enough. Let us say that you still are at 1:3. You are with the right amount of serving. And let's say if you set test was below 1:3, the third one will tell you what the serving is for you. Remember, this is a supplement. It is not a medication. You're not taking a dosage. You're taking a serving.
Fantastic information. Absolutely fantastic. Now, the massive one that I've got here, and I wanted to leave it to last as your closing comments. We know that there's some 5 deadly diseases out there, and obviously number one with the pandemic at the moment is the immune system with COVID-19. The next one is your heart function, your diabetes, then your stroke, and then obviously your wellness overall. Can you talk to me about balanced oil, or we'll go generic for a moment, omegas, okay, with the top 5 killers that are out there right now, and obviously the immune system with COVID-19, with the balance test and omega/balanced oil. Just give me a round out of your opinion on where you believe these products are at helping those type of issues.
Now, when we look at the degenerative diseases, we usually think about sugar, cholesterol, plaque formation in the arteries, blood pressure, and cancer. When you narrow it down, it comes to inflammation. When you dig a little deeper, you find it is the immune system that seems to modulate a large part of what we are talking about. So there has been a lot of talk about vitamin D3 and zinc to support your immune system. In fact, they should be promoting omega-3 that works. I would say that is the number one thing, with the inclusion of polyphenols. Now, vitamin D3, well, it's very popular at the moment. It is still not settled. Now, vitamin D3 is somewhere between a vitamin and a hormone. And some people who don't take vitamin 3 seem to have enough. Some don't seem to have enough. So that needs to be reinforced, yes. But the basic thing is to get the immune system right. Diseases of the future, it's going to be more of this kind of infection or some other virus or some kind of parasite that might come along. Immune system is number one. So number one supplement, I would say at the moment or the foreseeable future is actually omega-3 that works.
Fantastic. And guys, as we know, when you couple that with the xenobiotic, okay, in the countries that is available, absolutely critical for your diet to have the prebiotic as well as the balanced oil. Dr. Abraham, any closing comments from you just as we close out the call?
Just to tell all members that there are more tests on the way. I think Peter, Hong Kong has been lucky to get the vitamin D3 test. Other parts of the world will be getting it. It's not just a D3 test. The test is going to tell you how much of your D3 is coming from sunlight, food, or supplement. Wow, that's great. I don't know of any such test available at the moment elsewhere. I'm sure it'll come into the market later, but for the moment, we are number one. And that is the direction we are taking. We want to do as many tests as possible to make sure that the products that you're taking are benefiting you.
Fantastic, Dr. Abraham. Truly appreciate your time, energy, and effort. Again, thank you for coming on and just having a chat with us and educating us that little bit more about this incredible products that we've got here at Zenzino. Dr. Abraham, thank you so much. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you on the 15th of March on the next session with you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.